Okay, we're live. My name is Carla LaBianca, and welcome to Resource at Home. I am a realtor in Maplewood, New Jersey. I'm one part the Realty Partnership Group of Danbro LaBianca, and I'm also one of the producers and co-founders of the Resource Home Show. It's a trade show that that caters to Northern New Jersey, Essex, Morris, Union counties, and the home industry professional. Lisa?
Hi, I am the other half of Danbro LaBianca Partnership, as well, the co-producer of the Resource Home Show. And we're excited to be here with Michael Pennisi, our managing broker, and branch manager.
Great. So you're so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So Michael really needs no introduction in the world of real estate. He is known regionally and nationally among realtors. He is with Coldwell Banker, and he really knows his stuff, which is why we wanted to have him today on our show to discuss real estate in the age of COVID-19. So today is going to be a pretty informal conversation, and we hope that that you enjoy it and you get some good information from us, everyone. Okay, without further ado, guys, let's jump in.
Yeah.
So what are we seeing? Tell us.
Well, first of all, thank you for that warm introduction. I think that it's been an interesting, let's call it 9 weeks. We started out, I would say that we've seen phases to all of this. And I think depending on where you are around the country, you certainly might be in a different phase than we are here in New Jersey. But even locally, we've seen phases to it. I think that when it initially started, there were certainly more questions than answers. I think that still to some extent can be said today, but I think we're kind of feeling our way through it at this point from a real estate perspective, I should say. Earlier on, it was, everybody, we had government orders. The governor came and said, made announcements that real estate agents were non-essential employees. Mm-hmm. And it kind of shut down business. I mean, it didn't kind of shut down business. It did shut down business.
Yeah.
It had a tremendous impact on what we were dealing with locally. It's very hard to sell and show properties, if you can't do that showing part of it. So, knowing that, that kind of changed pretty quickly when the governor, made us essential employees. But there are, I would say the phase we're in now is one of, there's still some apprehension, clearly. I think that there's a lot of buyers, sellers, and agents that are a little fearful of either entering the market or going to see homes or showing homes in the agent's perspective. But at the same time, we are well above what I expected for in terms of under contracts, meaning actual sales that have taken place in the immediate past. Is our numbers are really remarkable given what we're all.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, go on. It seems as though the impressive aspect of this, to me, watching the industry pivot on a dime, as so many industries have had to, but really taking on the climate of the situation with COVID as a challenge to make things continue to work, because people do have to buy and they do have to sell in lives. So we've seen so many creative and ingenious solutions, creative problem-solving solutions in the period of time that we've been in the market here during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, go back to that phasing conversation. I think that when we first started, most people in real estate never knew what Zoom was, and now we're on a Zoom call right now, obviously, but beyond that, if you think about even listing presentations and talking to a seller or a buyer for that matter about the home buying or selling process, many of those conversations are taking place on Zoom.
Right.
The majority of them, I would say, are where
That's right. Yes. That's right.
Platform, for interacting virtually. We certainly see a dramatic shift in terms of the way homes are being marketed. So, we've personally done, a major pivot, and it's not that we didn't have an online presence before, because I think that the majority of our marketing presence for years before this was online driven. So, we know that that's where consumers are coming from, and that's certainly what we've always, put at a priority on, which helped us during all of this. But to take it a step further, I think agents have made the same shift where now, we see, virtual tours on every property. We see, Matterport and, different forms of marketing, which are like interactive floor plans. We've certainly seen a pivot in terms of the amount of showings, physical showings we've had in the marketplace. I think that's been, it's been downgraded considerably, where we might have had 40, 50 showings on a particular property. Now we have, I think the highest I've heard of more recently was 6. So you would think that shift from 40 to 50, physical buyers walking through a property to, call it a high of 6 would mean that the market is in trouble. And yet that's actually not been the case. We've seen people properties sight unseen. We've seen, buyers buying properties, where, they go into a home and now they know that this is the home for them because they've been looking through every virtual floor plan for weeks, months, years, potentially, depending on how long they've been in the market. And, they're ready and they're committed. There's a motivation factor there that, we might not have seen before.
That's right. And, Lisa and I have seen that in our business. One of our listings, it's so fun. We actually got on the phone with our client and said, okay, we're going to use Zoom technology to introduce your house to a prospective buyer. Let's strategize on how we do that. And what we did was we actually scripted and directed how we would have our client move his computer or iPad throughout the house. So first, seller, you're going to walk up the path. You're going to open the door. We're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and then we're going to pan over here. I mean, it was prescriptive. We had to make sure that we knew everything about the property, all of the bells and whistles, highlight the important stuff that we know people are going to be looking for, and we did it with care and thought. And that I think helped us sell this property. Like you were saying, Michael, we had 6 showings and we got 2 offers.
And the offer that we accepted was actually an individual who was not able to actually ever see the property. Completely virtual. So saw it, in a beautiful job, well done by all parties involved in this Zoom tour. But it was sight unseen for the most part in person. And so I think buyers are feeling, the ones that are motivated are feeling open, not everyone, but open to at least the idea of the original Zoom tour or virtual tour, and then moving on. Some sellers are comfortable, some buyers are comfortable with, moving forward to a very, very highly protocoled viewing, and some aren't. But, for the ones who are, there certainly is very much particular protocol in place to keep everyone healthy and safe. So
I want to touch upon that one point because I think it's a really important point to make. I'll use myself as an example. I have 260 agents that, in one way or another are looking to me for guidance. And, I originally, when this first all started, it was really tough to guide that because beyond the clients, the buyers and sellers that we're dealing with, and obviously, I have, I lead with the heart. And for me, I don't want to see anything happen to anybody. We put our community first. I think that's, a priority to me, certainly a priority to put our clients first. But to take it one step further, my agents are like family to me. And so, wanting to make sure that they stay safe was of top priority. And I think that was something that was really unclear in terms of, because we just didn't know what we were dealing with this virus and what is, we could listen to the CDC, we could listen to government orders, but, you still didn't know how to handle some of these things. And I'll give you an easy example that I'd like to point to that, we all know, at least you guys know, that the real estate transaction doesn't end when an offer is accepted. So, we're touching.
It begins.
Right.
It just begins. That's the start of the process. And, there's a lot of hand holding. There's a lot of, steps in that journey to get to a closing table. Right. What has been interesting is it's not just us that have pivoted. We see home inspectors that, doing everything, via FaceTime, and they're doing inspections by themselves with gloves on, with masks on. We're seeing all the follow-up, any inspection related things are being done safely, which is, it's a collaboration between all different parties, and the better agents themselves, you have resources in the market where you're able to reach out to those resources and make sure that things are handled in accordance to, not only the CDC and statewide laws, but also to the comfort level of your clients.
Right.
That's right.
And that can be customized quite a lot. So
thing where we used to have, we have a boardroom, table in our, in our office. It's a closing table, and we would invite all parties, buyers, sellers, attorneys, title people, agents. Everybody would come into a room like that, in pre-COVID, let's call it. Nowadays, we're doing, there's drive-by closings where, if they have to hand sign, which is, a rarity in certain instances, but if they absolutely have to, it's done like from your car. Like,
oh yeah, that's right.
Walk out to the car.
Yeah, we've had clients sign their, sellers sign their papers with their attorneys. They would meet 6 feet apart in a parking lot, and yeah, it's just been really interesting. Our sellers have been joining us for walkthroughs, Michael. When has that ever happened? Because they're the ones that actually have to be, driving
virtually joined. Yes, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's interesting. So Michael, what do you think, in your opinion, what if you are a seller and, there's two scenarios, right? I have to sell because I've been transferred to California for a job, or I'm thinking about selling. I know this is a desirable area to move to, the bedroom communities of New York City. What do I do in those two scenarios? What's your best advice?
So I think that you can't answer this question without leading with safety's first.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that it's not cliche at this point. Like, it's still very important to, to state, like, we have to lead with the concerns of our clients.
Yes.
Sellers that are concerned with, let's just use, a family with children. Like, how am I going to get my kids out of the house, keep them preoccupied for showings? I'm worried about, like, what if the buyer touches things? Like, is there germs going to be in the house? Like, there's a lot of, weird questions that are very real, scary things that we're dealing with today.
Absolutely.
What I would say is like, we have to address those concerns first before we really ever get to anything else. So you asked, the way you kind of phrase the question is people that have a need and people that have a want. The people that have a need, it becomes an easier conversation, because if you have an absolute need to sell your home, you're going to put your house on the market because you have a need. Yeah. So I would say that I put them in a different category, those sellers. In many instances, they're out of the home by the time they actually put their house on the market, especially when they're relocating across country or anything like that. Like, that was the example that you gave. So that's a little bit of a different conversation than sellers that are currently in the home. For sellers that are currently in the home, I'll break it into two parts. Like, you have the risk and, the safety concerns, and then you have what are you trying to achieve, like, goal-wise? And that part, like, normally we don't have to deal with the safety concerns parts. The second piece we always have to deal with is, like, when's the best time to put my house on the market?
Absolutely.
When is it most to get me top dollar? What most people, the general public, don't always think about in terms of residential real estate is there's usually like a breakdown of call it like a give and take between time and money. So, how much money do I want to walk away with? But like, other is like, in what terms? So, like, I'll give you an example. The easiest example is I'm not moving my children out of the school during the school year. Like, so there's a time component that plays a role for those particular sellers. There's other people that, like, I know I'm retiring in the next 3 years. Like, I absolutely need to be out in the next 3 years because I'm not going to be able to afford this after I retire. So, like, that's a life plan, and that's still, there's still that life plan in place, COVID or no COVID.
Yeah.
What I would say is this, and I know I'm going into a little bit of a long-winded answer here, but I think it's important to touch upon those points.
Right.
kind of gives context for the answer. So in my mind, the answer is this. We put safety first. For the people that need to sell, we still put safety first, but those are easy answers. The people that want to sell, the question becomes, how badly do you want to sell in today's market, which is, predicated on what their needs are, like, and their, overall goals are. The other thing is like, we don't know how long COVID is going to last. Right. So that piece of this, and it always becomes part of the equation, is like, let's talk extremes. Let's say this goes on, there's no, vaccine in sight, and this continues for years to come. I mean, obviously I pray that that's not the case, but like in that, in that world, how long can you remain in your home? Like, how long do you want to remain in your home? Like, those are all questions, because we don't know, there's no like end game here. We don't know what that looks like just yet. So if the question becomes like, I know I need to move in the next 6 months, I think the answer is like, all right, well, we have to look at the market today, or even not even 6 months. It could be 6 months, a year, 2 years. Like, we have to look at the market today and like what the market could bear today and what it looks like versus what the possible future could look like. Now, you guys know this is better, as well as I do. None of us have crystal balls. Like, it's not like I can sit here and make predictions or forecasts about what the market's going to be. We've all read the articles about the fleeing populations from New York City. We've read this, the counter articles to that about living in a virtual world and people possibly moving further west. Like, we've all heard different theories about this. What I think is, I don't really care about all the theories, because nobody's right. We don't, maybe, but we're not going to know in hindsight. So what's much more telling is looking at the stats of the market today versus what they looked like in the past, because history does tend to repeat itself. I realize, COVID's a different animal, but like, I'll give you an easy context for you to, base this off of, is if you have a seller that, it really wants to sell their home, we've put protocols in place to sell it safely, which I'll kind of touch upon in 1 second. And so now they're satisfied with those protocols. They feel good about that. Well, now, like, is today a good market to sell your home? That's the question. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is like, I look at something called rate of absorption. Rate of absorption looks at how many homes are on the market, what is the current demand for the homes on the market, and it pulls it into a ratio. And the ratio is basically in month supply of inventory. So month supply of inventory is what that really refers to, is how many months worth of homes on the market would it take for the current demand to buy up everything that's on the market. Mm-hmm. So in in normal times, let's call it,
really low here.
It's low anyway. Like, normal times, like, but historically speaking, like, you look at it, anything above 6 months worth of inventory, you would consider a buyer's market.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There is more inventory. There's more sellers out there than there are buyers. That has like a negative impact on pricing, because it's just simple supply and demand. Mm-hmm. You get into that like 4 to 5 month range, it's a balanced market. It just means that the market's kind of stable. Prices are not going up. They're not going down. It's kind of like an equilibrium, let's call it. And then anything less than 4 months is considered a seller's market. So in theory, prices should be rising in a seller's market. If you look at Maplewood and South Orange and West Orange and those markets, we've been like in that like 2 to 3 month range for the past year plus, which is incredible, just to be clear.
Awesome.
It's the best in the state, like, meaning that it's, some of the more desirable locations, there's not enough inventory for the amount of demand. And that's why we've seen, it's a case by case basis depending on the house, but for the most part, we've seen appreciation during that time. Mm-hmm. So right now, if you look at like literally like the past 3 months, primarily are COVID driven markets. Mm-hmm. We're at 1 month worth of inventory. 1 month
crazy.
Means there is such a shortage of supply that everything that goes on the market right now is going with multiple offers.
Right.
Right. I mean, and Lisa and I see this. It's amazing. Yeah. We both know there are buyers. We have so many buyers. We need houses to sell them to.
The thing that I'll add to what you just said is, we also have historically low interest rates. So we have very limited supply. We have the cheapest money that you could find. We have a whole population of people that are in the city that have been in this, confined spaces, let's call it, social distanced world.
Right.
It doesn't just have to be the city. It's Hoboken, it's Jersey City, it's more urban.
Yeah, apartment living,
They're all like, I need to get out of here, and I can't spend another month in these conditions.
Right.
So they're making moves very quickly, and they're willing to pay top dollar. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a seller right now, I know it was a long-winded answer to get us where I'm saying, but if you're a seller right now, now's the time to put your house on the market. I mean, if you're looking to get top dollar. And by the way, the one other piece that I'll add to that is every single person that I've talked to, like all my agents, they all have tons of buyers that they're trying to find before, rather. You guys included, obviously.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like what we've been doing to minimize the safety concerns is important. We touched upon like some of the things like in terms of, wearing masks, limited showings and all of that. Another thing that Coldwell Banker pivoted to is it's called exclusive first look. And what we do is like we actually market homes rather than going like full splash on the MLS to the largest, exposure and largest population that we possibly can, which by the way, definitely works. It's a great way to market a home. But in today's market, many sellers aren't comfortable with that.
That's right. It gives an intimate feel, a boutique feel, which I think a lot of sellers love. We love it.
There's just more control in the showing.
Yeah, so I mean, just from a practical matter, what it does is it allows us to market those homes internally to all of the Coldwell Banker family. So agents like yourselves, that like if you have a client, you put in their wants and needs, and it will email you those homes as they come up, and it's listings that are not like publicly being marketed. And I think that it's something that sellers have really gravitated towards because they have more control over who could come in their house and when.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a comfort level that goes there. They don't want it going out to the masses. They're still asking for what they want price-wise. And in most instances, we're getting multiple offers, not even going to the market. And it's, drastically reducing the showings to get there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, long-winded response, but hopefully that kind of gives you some insight.
It does. Thank you. And I'm sure all of our viewers appreciate it too.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. The media has certainly been talking about how everyone's leaving New York, but I want to go on record and say New York will take a beating perhaps, but I never count her out. I think she will come back, and she'll come back better than before. And I think a lot of people who love that city will end up staying in that city. What I think will happen is that this might push people who've been on the fence, those buyers who've been on the fence, and Lisa and I both have them, they think it takes them years to decide whether or not they want to move. And sometimes another child gets added into the mix. And, I think we'll start to see those folks come out of the woodwork, in addition to the people that in January were gung-ho on finding properties here. And so, I think it'll be interesting what summer will yield. Any thoughts, Lisa? Do you have any thoughts on what might happen this summer?
I'm just really curious to see about, as the months pass and people have a different relationship, a different psychological relationship with COVID-19 in terms of, just laxening. Now, whether the economy opens back up. I mean, that's a big statement, and it happens in many different levels. But I think psychologically, things really can shift in people's collective consciousness, as a buyer or as a seller. So I'm curious to see how, when sellers in this area, in this region, see that it's a seller's market right now, and that, homes are doing really well, are they going to slacken on their safety protocol a little bit? Now, we won't let them to some degree, because I think that, as Michael said, we really are safety driven, and we're not going to be casual about this no matter what.
That's right.
But, I also think that, maybe some of the buyers, on the other hand, will say, oh, well, I guess, that the more houses are going to be coming out as people relax. Maybe we should wait another couple of months. So I just think there are so many different variables of psychology that could manifest in the masses of buyers, in the categories of buyers and sellers. And so it's a really interesting time to be watching the market for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to add something to what you just said. You just sparked a thought, because I agree with you. I'm certainly not making any forecasts. Like, I don't, I've been,
Right, we don't know.
Many times over, it's impossible to kind of forecast. Like, if anything, we're looking at several different scenarios, depending on how all this plays out. But one thing that, is another factor is we don't know how many people, you look at the unemployment rate today, and we, obviously, like,
big factor
driven up, but like, we don't know how many people that are maybe on furloughs today that never get brought back, or
right.
Shift to more virtual models, or how many positions, are just changed. Like, whole departments are changed just because it's a different world that we live in. So we haven't seen the impacts of all that. We also haven't seen all the government intervention. Like, there has to be like some form of modifications in terms of how mortgages are done.
Right.
We've seen that shift from an appraisal perspective. Like, most appraisals, almost all appraisals right now are, they're drive-by appraisals, where
That's right.
Before, like, people, they needed to get into your house and walk through and, feel it. That's not the case right now. But I go back to that, like, unemployment and the furlough conversation, because that's going to be an impactful thing on the market in terms of demands. Like, we don't know how many buyers will want to purchase homes, but might not be financially capable as we come out of this. And, what percentage that represents in the market, I am certainly not doom and gloom. Carla, to your point before, I do think New York City there's going to be sustained demand in New York City, because if the people that are living there right now decide to move out, believe me, somebody's going to be buying their places. There's still, we heard these same things after 9/11. We heard these same things during the financial crisis of, 2008. There's always that buzz and that immediate, like, kind of like, reaction to, any type of, dramatic, impact of
yeah.
That's good. That's part of it. But like, long term, I'm not worried about New York City. Like, I'm not worried about us. Like, I'm not worried about our markets. I think our markets bring a lot to the table. I mean, they're, yes, they're a stone's throw from the city, and they have the cultural feel that everybody's looking for, but they also have backyards. It's kind of it's a sweet spot of urban to suburban. And I think that sweet spot is what a lot of, urbanites want. They don't want to move from, Brooklyn or New York City or, Jersey City or Hoboken. They don't want to move from there to a farm. Like, it's like too far of a reach.
Right.
Most people anyway.
Yeah, some people do, but like they're the exceptions always. Like,
right. The outliers.
It still remain, but like, I think in general, you kind of have to baby step it, and I think that's what people are going to wind up doing.
I think that's right. I think you make a great point about the economy too. I mean, billions of dollars have been lost in the market. I mean, the furloughed, the folks that have been furloughed might not have a job. God willing, I hope they all do. And then, what about those people who got their bonuses or had their savings, got a little topsy-turvy in the market over the past few weeks. And so, it's something to consider. The buyership needs to consider that. Before we end, I am curious about one thing, and I'd love both of your opinions on this. We have a lot of buyers, right? And some of these buyers don't know about Maplewood and South Orange or Montclair or Glen Ridge or all of the towns that we deal with. And what I mean by that is they've heard and they've read about how great all of them are. And most of the time we tell our clients, well, if you want to catch the vibe, you got to come out and visit. You got to do the field work, right? You got to get out there in the field, and you got to go and talk to the people and grab a cup of coffee at Abel Baker, or you got to, go and shop at Words, or go to Jackie and Son in South Orange and grab one of their delicious shakes. Can't do that though can't do that right now. So how do we get our clients to catch the vibe? How do we do that? Any great suggestions?
Lisa, I'll let you start if you.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think partially it's going to be, you know, if there are people who are purchasing sight unseen without that much knowledge of the area, you know, they must be learning somehow. They must be online researching. They must be talking to friends of friends. And I think desperate times call for desperate measures. I hate to use the word desperate because I really do feel like people are truly motivated and inspired to make this move. And maybe because of the situation that is a little bit, you know, scary, frankly, you know, their inspiration is coming out and they're taking leaps of faith more. That's what I feel like. But I feel like, you know, certainly there's materials to read, and most people who are coming from urban areas know someone, or many people, I want to say, know someone who are in these areas. So I think the pre-connections that people make at this stage of the game, if they have questions about the area, are really going to come into play, and they're going to get on the phone and meet some new community members before they are able to come out. So I think that's my thinking.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Carla. I don't want to interrupt.
I was going to say, I actually put together, I always tell my clients I need them to do homework, right? I'm always like, you guys need to do homework. I can give you stats and I will give you all the market data you need. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to catching that feel of where you want to be, you need to, that's all you. And so I thought to myself, how do I help them do this? And I curated no less than 33 articles on our area, and all of the Midtown direct lines. I mean, Montclair, Glen Ridge, all the way up to Morristown. I got articles on everything. And it's not only about, like, you know, real estate articles. It's articles about the kinds of people that live here, that we live among, and all the wonderful things about them. And so that's what I personally have done. I've curated articles.
Yeah.
And that seems to help. At least my clients have been telling me this helps them. So
yeah.
Threw me a softball with that last comment, because that's actually the direction I was going to go in. Here's the thing, like, you know, everything that you guys said is spot on. The only other thing that I would add to that is, you know, we do live in an online world, and I think that some of the online forums are a great place. One thing that I've been very proud to see is, you know, the online presence in Maplewood and South Orange, all the forums that I'm a part of and everything else, has been very uplifting.
Yeah.
You know, so many people are truly caring for one another.
Yeah.
To help the local businesses and support the businesses. And
great point.
For, you know, everybody, you know, around them. I've seen, you know, to me, like, you know, you turn on the news, you get depressed. You know, you turn on like some of these forums, or you look at forums, and it's just like there are so many great people in these communities.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Help one another safely.
Yeah.
So one thing that, like, you know, for me personally, like, if you're somebody that's from out of the area, you'll get a real good sense about what a community is all about by looking at, like, what these people that are stuck at home are saying to one another on an online forum.
Yeah.
That's been like an awesome thing that I'll point out. And the only other thing that I'll add to that, and it kind of speaks to Carla and what you're putting together, like what you just spoke about, you know, at Lisa, you as well, obviously, you know, the better agents, the better realtors are not, you know, it's not just about like how quickly can I sell you a house,
right?
You know, it's not about like sign here as fast as possible.
Right.
The better agents, you know, are relationship driven. The better agents bring the lifestyle to life. And I think that, you know, what you guys have done a fantastic job on is, you know, obviously you do tremendous work with design and everything else, but like from a community perspective, you've done a masterful job of bringing people together. I realize in this COVID world, it's tough to do that. But I will say that, you know, the online forums that you guys have, you know, your blog, you know, all that, like, I think that you've done a really nice job of bringing the community together. And, you know, kudos to you, first of all. But I also think that, like, that's the answer to your question is, you know, if you have the right realtor in place that could all those articles together and give a little like, an overview of what it is that you're buying into, and could make the community connection, with like, listen, like this is my experience in the community.
Right.
Your experience in the community.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, to bring it to real life and make it like something that's tangible in a world that's difficult to find today. That has tremendous value. And I think that's why you guys have been so successful in your career in real estate. I think that's why you'll continue to be successful in the COVID-19 world that we're living in and beyond. I would say just continue to do those exact same things that you do well, because that's what people need today. Maybe more so than ever is really the truth.
For sure. Right.
Thank you for saying that, Michael. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, anything else? What didn't we talk about, guys? Anything?
I mean, the only other thing that I'll kind of speak to, and we touched upon it before, but I personally found this kind of interesting. I'm going to pull up real numbers so I can give it to you. But
yeah, we love that. We love data.
As a whole, I looked at like Maplewood, and obviously there's a little bit of Maplewood and South Orange, but they're
before we wrap up, anything?
We getting screwed up here?
We're all good.
We're all good? All right. So what I was going to say is like active inventory is down 36%. That's a big number, 36%. But under contracts are only down 7%. So what that tells me, and this is kind of like, I would leave this as the final takeaway point, is there are less homes on the market, but there are almost the same amount of homes that are selling. Like a 7% drop in under contracts, that happens in normal times.
Right.
You could see a 7% shift, like, month to month. Like that's just, it's kind of normal behavior. Right. So when we're seeing demand levels that are consistent, and we're seeing inventory or supply levels that have dropped, like it's an interesting market right now. I mean,
it's powerful. Powerful information.
It's unexpected. Like it's we all made these crazy predictions about what was going to happen in the market, and I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can tell you what's happening today. And what's happening today is a very, very strong real estate market. So anybody can say whatever they want opinion wise, but like, forget about opinions, the facts, like the actual market.
The data.
We love that. We love dealing in facts.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's
unprecedented times.
It really is.
I hope it continues. The only other thing I'll add to that is like, listen, I know a lot of people are hurting right now. And I know I don't want to say I've been bullish on the market. I think I've been real about the market, but for all the people that have lost jobs, and for all the people that, have lost loved ones that are dealing with the sickness themselves, obviously my love goes out to you. I hope you guys are all good, but, we're going to get through this, and from a real estate perspective, I think we already are. I think that we're getting through this and we're figuring out our way, to navigate these waters very effectively and safely.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, to all the people out there that are hurting, we are with you and wish you all the best. So if you like what you've seen, please join us again next week, next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back here with another topic about design, real estate. Send us your opinions. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And also, we are going to be setting up a page that will have a list of places to donate in the next couple of weeks. So if you like what you see here today, we ask you to donate to one of our favorite charities. On behalf of myself, my lovely partner, Lisa Danbro, Sarah G., and Nareed Saeed, thank you so much, Michael Pennisi.
Thank you so much, Michael.
We love having you here. Please come back.
Very fortunate to be able to pick your brain.
And it's always good to see your faces. Even in a COVID world, you're still stylish, and you got the design elements behind you.
We try.
I certainly expect. What I expect, I should say. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much. It was so great to see you guys, and to all our viewers, we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
Take care, you guys.
Bye.